The knock came at 5 a.m., sharp and desperate, cutting through my sleep like a warning siren, and before my mind could fully wake up, my heart already knew something was wrong, because no good news ever arrives at a door before sunrise, especially when you live alone and your life is painfully ordinary. I dragged myself out of bed, half blind, half annoyed, still wearing the weight of unpaid bills and unfulfilled dreams, and when I opened the door, the world tilted in a way I could never prepare for. Standing there was Eleanor Wright, my CEO, the woman whose name could silence an entire boardroom, whose presence in the office felt like walking into a storm made of power and perfection, and yet now she stood on my doorstep looking smaller, fragile, wrapped in a coat that seemed borrowed, her eyes hollowed by something far deeper than exhaustion. Before we go any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that one moment can change a life forever, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments where you are watching from, because stories like this connect hearts across the world. Eleanor Wright was not supposed to look like that. In the office, she was precision and control, every step measured, every word calculated, a woman who climbed her way to the top in a world that tried to crush her at every level. I was just Daniel Foster, a mid-level analyst whose biggest achievement was surviving layoffs and pretending confidence during meetings. I knew her only from a distance, from emails signed with her name, from the hush that fell when she entered a room. Seeing her at my door at dawn felt unreal, like two different worlds had collided in the most uncomfortable way possible. She had divorced the night before, though the news had not yet reached the office, and something in her life had cracked so violently that she had driven across the city without knowing where she was going until she found herself standing in front of the one person who had once shown her kindness without expecting anything back. Months earlier, during a brutal restructuring phase, I had stayed late every night, not because I was ambitious, but because I was afraid. One evening, I had found Eleanor alone in the break room, her heels kicked off, staring at a spreadsheet like it was an enemy. Without thinking, I had helped her fix an error that would have cost the company millions. I did not boast about it, did not tell anyone, did not even bring it up again. I just went back to my desk. That moment, small and forgettable to me, had lodged itself somewhere inside her, unnoticed until her life fell apart. That morning, she stepped inside my tiny apartment, and the silence between us was heavier than any conversation. The sun had not yet risen, and the city outside was quiet, unaware that something irreversible was unfolding in my living room. She looked around at my modest space, the mismatched furniture, the stack of rejection letters from past dreams, the life of a man who had learned to expect very little. And then she told me something that shattered the invisible wall between who she was and who she had been pretending to be. She said that after the divorce, after the lawyers, the cold signatures, and the empty house, she realized she had built an empire but nowhere to rest her soul. She said that for the first time in years, she was terrified, and I was the only person who had ever made her feel seen without wanting something from her. That confession turned my life upside down, not because of romance or fantasy, but because it forced me to see myself differently. For years, I had believed I was invisible, replaceable, someone who existed on the margins. Yet here was the most powerful woman I knew, broken enough to knock on my door at dawn because of a moment of simple decency I barely remembered. I offered her coffee, not as an employee or subordinate, but as a human being, and in that quiet morning, we shared something rare, a space where titles meant nothing and pain was allowed to breathe. The weeks that followed were complicated and heavy. At work, nothing changed on the surface, but beneath it all, there was an unspoken understanding. Eleanor faced her divorce publicly with dignity, while privately she unraveled and rebuilt herself piece by piece. I watched her struggle with loneliness, with the shame society quietly assigns to failed marriages, especially to powerful women. And she watched me wrestle with my own fears, the belief that my life would always remain small. We did not save each other in dramatic ways. Instead, we sat with each other's pain, and that was enough to begin transformation. Slowly, opportunities opened up for me, not because of favoritism, but because Eleanor began to see my potential clearly and pushed me to see it too. She challenged me, encouraged me, and forced me out of my comfort zone. At the same time, I reminded her of who she was beyond the boardroom, beyond the headlines. We both learned that strength does not mean never breaking, and kindness does not mean weakness. The company thrived, but more importantly, so did we as individuals. Years later, when I look back at that knock at 5 a.m., I understand that it was not just her life that had collapsed that night, but also the narrow version of my own. That single moment taught me that even the smallest acts of kindness can echo louder than ambition, and that sometimes, the people we admire the most are the ones most in need of compassion. Eleanor rebuilt her life with honesty and courage, and I finally stepped into a version of myself I had been too afraid to imagine. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that humanity matters more than status, please like this video, share it, and subscribe, because your support helps bring more stories like this to life and reach people who need them most. And before this story ends, I want to ask you to comment below about a moment when kindness changed your life or someone else's, because those stories deserve to be heard too. The truth is, sometimes a single knock in the dark can light up an entire future, and all it takes is the courage to open the door.